The human named Daniel Hayes did not expect to die that day. He only wanted to take one last walk outside the research station before the long jump back to Earth. The planet, called Lumia 4, was quiet and calm with soft blue grass and warm yellow light drifting through its thin sky. He walked alone, enjoying the silence. But the silence was the first warning. Something was watching him. Daniel felt it before he heard it, a sudden pressure in his mind, like a cold hand touching the back of his thoughts. He stopped. His heart kicked hard in his chest. He turned around, expecting to see some animal from the planet. Instead, he saw nothing. The field was empty. The air was still. Only the soft blue grass moved like slow waves. He took a step backward, and the pressure in his mind grew stronger. It almost felt like fear, but not his fear, someone else's fear. Someone, or something, was afraid of him. "Hello?" Daniel said, voice shaking a little. He hated that it shook. Nothing answered. But then he felt something again, sadness. Deep sadness, like a heavy rain falling inside his chest. It was so real it made his eyes sting. He tried to breathe normally, but it felt like he was breathing water. He touched the small communicator on his belt. "Station, this is Hayes. I think I've got," he stopped. There was no danger he could explain. How could he report a feeling inside his brain? "Never mind," he said. He lowered his hand. He didn't call for help. Something inside him whispered not to. And then he saw them. 3 tall shapes rose from the grass, as if the planet itself had grown arms and stood up. Their skin looked like liquid crystal, glowing faintly with different colors, soft blue, pale green, soft pink. They had no clear faces, only smooth oval heads with tiny points of light where eyes might be. They moved quietly, gracefully, almost floating. Daniel's breath froze. These were the Lumines, rare, mysterious, barely understood. Until now, humans had only seen them from far away. No one had ever been this close. The 3 aliens stood in a half circle around him. The pressure in his mind grew stronger, and he could feel something changing. They were touching his thoughts, not with hands, but with their own minds. Daniel didn't know what to do. Part of him wanted to run, but another part knew running would be useless. They could feel everything he felt. Even his fear. The tallest one stepped closer. Its crystal skin glowed a deeper blue. Daniel felt a gentle wave inside his mind, like someone saying calm without using words. His fear dropped a little, but confusion rose in its place. "I don't understand," Daniel whispered. The alien touched his forehead with a single long finger. It was warm, warmer than he expected. And suddenly everything changed. His vision blurred. He saw memories, his own, but not from his own eyes. He saw them from their eyes, as if they were the ones looking at his life. He saw his childhood home. He saw the day he left Earth. He saw the people he loved. He saw the night he watched his father die in a hospital bed. That memory hit him so hard he staggered back. But then he felt something impossible. The aliens were crying. Not with tears. Their bodies glowed brighter, flickering with bursts of trembling light. He felt their sorrow echo through the bond. They were crying because of him, because they felt his pain as if it were theirs. Daniel tried to pull away, but the tall alien held his head gently, firmly. Not trapping him, supporting him. Like a hand steadying someone who is falling. "Stop," Daniel said softly. "Please." But the images didn't stop. They felt everything, the fear he carried since childhood, the quiet grief he never spoke about, the loneliness hidden behind jokes and smiles. The aliens didn't judge him. They didn't attack him. They simply felt him. And then he understood. They weren't showing him his memories, they were learning him. They were touching his soul the only way they knew how. The pressure in his mind grew warm, gentle, full of kindness. Not human kindness, something bigger, deeper, older. It wrapped around him like soft light. The 3 aliens glowed again. Their bodies shimmered with shifting colors, blue for sadness, gold for hope, green for comfort. Daniel felt all those emotions flow into him. The pain inside him, the pain he kept buried for years, melted like ice in sunlight. He fell to his knees, shaking. "Why are you doing this?" he whispered. He didn't expect an answer. But he felt one. A simple, clear feeling inside his mind. "You hurt. We do not want you to hurt." Daniel covered his face with his hands. Every part of him trembled. He had traveled across the galaxy to study life on a distant world. But he never imagined the first creatures to understand him, to truly understand him, would not be human. The tall alien knelt beside him. Its glowing hand rested gently on his shoulder. The sadness it felt became softer, like the quiet after a storm. Daniel finally looked up. The aliens' bodies flickered with small waves of bright light. They were still crying. And then, through that strange connection between their minds and his, Daniel felt something new, fear, but not his fear. Their fear. They were afraid for him. Something dangerous was coming. Something close. And Daniel realized he was no longer alone in his thoughts. He was part of something much larger, and whatever was coming would force them to stand together. Daniel did not move at first. He stayed on his knees while the three lumines stared toward the dark line of distant hills. Their bodies dimmed, then brightened with sharp flashes of yellow and red. Even without knowing their language, he understood those colors meant danger. The pressure in his mind returned, heavier this time. The aliens were trying to warn him, but they could not speak in words. Instead, they pushed emotion into him, showing him pieces of the fear they felt. Daniel saw a brief image in his mind, shadows moving across the fields, something fast, something full of hunger. Something is coming, Daniel whispered. His voice cracked. But what? The lumines did not answer. Their bodies tightened and shifted, like liquid becoming solid. The tallest one stood in front of him, spreading its long arms slightly, as if shielding him from whatever approached. Daniel forced himself to stand, legs shaking. Should we run? He asked. Another wave hit his mind. Not panic. Not escape. Something like, stay close, stay behind us. He wanted to argue. He wanted to say he wasn't helpless. But when he looked at the glowing beings in front of him, he saw something he didn't expect, fear mixed with determination. They were afraid for him, not for themselves. A sudden sound broke the quiet. Not loud, but sharp, like blades cutting through grass. Daniel turned quickly. The blue grass rippled in long lines, as if something heavy moved underneath the surface. The ripples came closer and closer, spreading out like the trails of underwater creatures. The lumines stepped forward as one. The ground in front of them exploded upward. A creature burst out of the soil, throwing dirt and grass into the air. It was large, almost 2 meters long, with slick black skin and 4 sharp limbs that bent in strange angles. Its head had no eyes, only a long ridge of bone that split open into rows of thin teeth. It clicked its jaws rapidly, a dry, rattling sound. Daniel stumbled back. What the hell is that? The creature hissed and lunged. One of the smaller lumines moved faster than Daniel could blink. Its body glowed bright green as it stepped in front of him. A wave of force, visible like heat shimmering in air, burst from its hand. The creature smashed sideways into the soil, screeching. Telepathy and telekinesis? Daniel gasped. You can do that? The lumines did not turn to him. Their bodies glowed brighter, pulsing in colors he had not seen yet, sharp bright whites and deep reds. Daniel did not need translation. These creatures were skilled, but they were not warriors. They fought only to protect, not to kill. The ground trembled again. 3 more black creatures rose from the soil, clicking and hissing. One crawled close to Daniel, moving low like a spider. He stepped back, heart pounding so hard he felt it in his ears. The tallest lumine placed a hand on his shoulder. The pressure in his mind turned into a sharp, urgent push. Do not run. Stay with us. Trust us. Daniel tried to steady his breathing. He had seen dangerous wildlife before on other planets, but nothing like these blind, bone-faced predators. They didn't move like hunters. They moved like weapons. The lumines spread out in a half circle in front of him again. Light built around them, brighter, stronger, like heat gathering before a storm. The creatures attacked all at once. The first leapt toward the tallest lumine. The alien lifted both arms, releasing a wave of blue energy that struck the creature mid-air. It twisted violently and crashed into the grass. Another creature raced toward the smaller lumine who had protected Daniel earlier. The lumine placed a hand on its chest. For a moment, its entire body flashed white. The ground beneath the creature cracked, rising upward like a small wall. The creature slammed into it and screeched in pain. The third creature went straight for Daniel. Time slowed. Daniel raised his arms uselessly, knowing they would do nothing. The creature's jaws opened wide, bones splitting apart like a broken shell ready to crush him. Then a strong force hit him from the side, not from the creature, but from the lumine. The smallest one tackled Daniel with surprising strength, knocking him to the ground just as the creature's jaws snapped shut above him. The creature bit nothing but air. Daniel rolled onto his back. Thank you. Before he finished speaking, the small lumine stood again, glowing with fierce golden light. Fear and courage pushed through Daniel's mind as if the alien was using emotion to stay strong. The creatures regrouped, circling, clicking faster. The tall lumine sent a message through Daniel's mind, not words, but something like a warning bell. They will not stop. More are coming. Daniel swallowed hard. We need to get to the station. The lumines all turned toward him. Their lights flickered with confusion, then understanding. The pressure in his mind changed again, agreement, urgency. The tallest Lumine pointed toward the distant hills. A clear picture formed in Daniel's head, an underground shelter, hidden in the rocks. You want us to go there? A strong feeling hit him, safer than your station. Daniel hesitated only for a second. The creature screamed and crawled closer. He nodded. Then lead the way. The Lumines moved quickly, surrounding him on all sides like glowing guards. Their light grew brighter, pushing back the predators. For a moment, Daniel felt safe. For a moment, he believed they could outrun the danger. But as they fled toward the hills, the ground behind them split open again. A massive shadow rose from the soil. Much larger than the others. Much worse. And Daniel realized the first wave had only been the beginning. Daniel ran as fast as he could, but the Lumines stayed close around him, guiding him like glowing shields. The tall one moved in front, the two smaller ones stayed at his sides. Their bodies shone brighter with every step, helping him see the ground. But no light could hide the terror behind them. The huge shadow that rose from the soil let out a deep, vibrating roar. The sound was so strong Daniel felt it in his bones. When he risked a glance over his shoulder, he wished he hadn't. The creature stood almost 3 meters tall. Its skin looked like black stone. Its limbs were thick and powerful, and each finger ended in long hooks that gleamed in the fading sun. Its head was wide and flat, and rows of bone plates slid open along its skull as it roared again. Unlike the smaller creatures, this one had no mouth. It had a grinding jaw hidden underneath its chest, like a terrible machine. Daniel stumbled as fear rushed through him. That thing wasn't in the reports, he whispered. The Lumines didn't need words to tell him the truth, they didn't know this creature either. Their fear hit him hard, sharper than any emotion they had shared before. Even they had never seen something like it. The giant predator slammed its claws into the ground. Dirt and blue grass flew into the air. The smaller predators scattered away, fleeing the larger shadow as if they themselves were prey. Daniel didn't waste another second. He kept running. The hills came closer. But not close enough. The tall Lumine looked back at the creature and then pushed a powerful feeling into Daniel's mind, faster, hurry, danger growing. Daniel breathed hard, legs burning. I'm trying. The giant creature roared again, then lunged forward. The ground seemed to shake with its movement. It was fast, too fast for something so big. Daniel knew it would reach them in seconds. The smallest Lumine stopped suddenly. It turned back toward the monster, its body glowing gold and white. Daniel felt its emotion hit him like a punch, fear mixed with courage, but also something else. Something like goodbye. No, Daniel shouted. Don't. The small alien didn't listen. Or maybe it couldn't. Its hands rose, glowing brighter and brighter until Daniel could hardly look. Then it sent out a wave of mental force so strong that Daniel fell to his knees. A blast of golden energy shot across the field. The giant creature took the hit straight in the chest. Its stone-like skin cracked, it roared in pain and staggered back several steps, soil shaking under its weight. But the Lumine fell too. Its light flickered and dimmed. It collapsed onto the grass, color fading until its crystal skin looked almost clear. Daniel crawled toward it, heart aching. The tall Lumine shouted something, not with sound, but with a sharp, tearing emotion. The other small Lumine rushed to its fallen friend, glowing green, trying to heal it. But the broken colors inside the fallen alien told Daniel the truth. The giant creature was only pushed back. It was not defeated. Daniel wiped his eyes. He didn't even remember when he started crying. We have to go, he said softly. Please. We can't stay here. The tall Lumine placed a hand on the fallen one's chest. Its light grew bright blue, sadness, mourning. Then it turned to Daniel and pushed a firm feeling into his thoughts. We will carry them. You must keep moving. Daniel stood slowly. The tall Lumine lifted the fallen alien in its arms. The second small Lumine took the lead this time, glowing bright green and creating a faint shield of energy behind them. They ran again. Daniel forced himself forward even though his legs felt like they might break. He heard the giant creature roar again, angrier, recovering. It charged. The ground thundered behind them. Daniel didn't look back. He couldn't. All he could do was trust the aliens who had saved him again and again. As they reached the base of the hills, the small Lumine stopped once more. Its green glow expanded into a curved barrier of shimmering light. The giant creature crashed into it with full force. The shield held for 1 second. 2 seconds. Then it shattered like glass. The shockwave threw Daniel into the grass. His lungs emptied. He rolled and coughed, trying to stand, but his body refused. The Lumine stood over him, forming a wall of light. The tall one placed the fallen alien gently on the ground and stepped forward. The creature stomped closer, ready to strike them all down. Daniel forced himself onto his knees. He wanted to stand, to fight, even if he had no weapon. But the tall Lumine placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. The pressure in Daniel's mind grew steady and calm. Do not fear. We will not let it take you. The giant monster lifted one hooked arm high, ready to swing down. The tall Lumine raised both hands. Light exploded from its body, bright, blinding light that turned the whole field white. Daniel covered his face. The air vibrated with power and heat. The creature screamed in a deep, rumbling voice that shook the ground. When the light faded, Daniel lowered his hands. The giant creature was frozen in place, held back by a massive wave of blue and white energy. The tall Lumine pushed forward, every part of its glowing body shaking from the effort. But the creature answered with another roar. It began to push back. And Daniel realized with cold dread that the tall Lumine was reaching its limit. If the monster broke through this final barrier, everything, and everyone, would be lost. The tall Lumine's body shook as it held the giant creature back. Blue and white light poured from its arms like fire made of crystal. The monster roared, claws digging into the ground as it pushed forward. Each step felt like a small earthquake. Daniel could feel the force travel through the soil and into his bones. The second small Lumine rushed to help, its green glow brightening until the air shimmered around it. Together, the two aliens strengthened the barrier. For a moment, the creature stopped moving. But Daniel could see the cracks forming in the light. He could see the strain in the aliens' bodies. They were fighting with everything they had. And they were losing. Daniel looked around desperately. The hills were close now, only a short distance away. He could even see the opening of a narrow cave at the base of the rocks, the hidden shelter the Lumines had shown him earlier through their mind touch. Safety. Escape. A chance to regroup. But they would never reach it if the creature broke through. No. No, come on, Daniel whispered. His hands trembled. He had no weapons. The research station was too far. He had nothing but his body, his voice, and the desperate urge to help the beings who had risked everything for him. The tall Lumine's legs began to buckle. The giant creature surged forward. Hey, Daniel shouted. Over here. You want me, don't you? He didn't know if the creature could hear him, or understand anything, but he shouted anyway. He waved his arms, stepping closer. Come on. I'm right here. The creature's bone plates opened wider. It sniffed the air with its hidden jaw. And then, for one horrible moment, it looked straight at Daniel. The barrier cracked. No. The second Lumine cried into Daniel's mind. The emotion was so sharp it almost knocked him over. Stay back. Stay safe. But Daniel didn't listen. He stepped closer, trembling but determined. You're after me, right? Then take me. The creature roared and threw itself against the weakening barrier. Light shattered again, like crystal breaking under too much force. The small Lumine beside the tall one pushed harder, trying to heal the cracks. But Daniel could feel the truth through the bond, they had little energy left. Their minds were strained to the edge. One more hit and everything would collapse. Daniel looked at the fallen Lumine lying behind them, its colors pale and fading. They had already lost one. He could not let the others fall too. He turned and ran toward the shelter entrance. The creature saw him move. It roared, tearing at the barrier with renewed fury. The tall Lumine's light flickered dangerously. Then the alien threw a single emotion at Daniel. Go. Daniel sprinted across the last stretch of ground. His lungs burned, his legs shook, but he didn't stop until he reached the cave entrance. He grabbed a thick rock from the ground and waved it at the creature, shouting again. Come on. Come get me. The giant monster scraped the barrier with its claws. The blue and white light broke apart. The Lumines were forced backward, sliding in the dirt. The creature lifted its massive arm and slammed it down. The barrier shattered completely. The shockwave knocked the Lumines to their knees. The tall one collapsed onto its hands, its light dimming. The smaller one rushed to help it stand, but its own glow flickered weakly. The creature charged toward Daniel. Come on, Daniel whispered, backing into the cave. Just a little closer. The ground trembled as the monster thundered across the field. Its claws scraped rock as it reached the mouth of the cave and leaned in. For a moment, everything stopped. Daniel stood with the rock in his hands, heart pounding so loudly he could barely hear anything else. The creature's bone plates clicked open as it smelled him, hunting for the exact moment to strike. Daniel did the only thing he could think of. He threw the rock into the cave depths behind him. The sound echoed loudly, bouncing off stone walls like thunder traveling underground. The creature froze. It jerked its head toward the echoing noise. Then again. And again. It was blind, Daniel remembered that now. It hunted by vibration and sound. Daniel made no sound. He held his breath. Slowly, the creature turned its massive body toward the deeper cave darkness, confused by the echoes bouncing everywhere at once. Its claws scraped stone as it leaned deeper inside. Daniel slipped to the side, pressing himself flat against the rocky outer wall. Behind the creature, the Lumine saw what he was doing. And sent him a sharp, urgent warning, danger deeper inside. Daniel ignored it. He had one chance to trap the creature, even if he didn't know what else lived in the cave. Even if it meant he was risking everything. He reached for a large boulder nearby, bigger than he could lift, but small enough to slide with his full weight. He pushed it with all his strength. His muscles screamed. His feet slipped. The stone dragged across the ground, inch by inch. The creature turned its head slightly, confused by the scraping. Daniel shoved harder. The rock finally tipped, falling into the narrow entrance between the creature and the outer field. It slammed down with a heavy thud, trapping the monster inside the cave. The creature roared, furious. The whole cave shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Daniel stumbled backward, breathing hard. The two remaining Lumines rushed toward him, their lights flickering with shock, relief, and something like pride. But before they could reach him, the ground near the cave cracked open. A new sound echoed from the darkness. Something else was inside. Something even the Lumines feared. And Daniel realized the cave wasn't only a shelter. It was a prison. Daniel backed away from the cave entrance as a cold shiver ran down his spine. The trapped monster inside slammed itself against the rock he'd pushed, shaking the ground. But the new sound coming from the darkness was worse, slow, deep, and heavy. It echoed like breathing from something enormous and ancient. The two Lumines reached Daniel's side. Their lights flickered with fear. The tall one gently touched his arm, sending him a soft message through his mind. "We must not stay here." Daniel nodded quickly. "Yeah." Agreed. But before they could move, the tall Lumine suddenly froze. Its head lifted, as if listening to something none of them could hear. Its body dimmed to a dull blue, trembling with quiet shock. The smaller Lumine turned toward it, glowing green with concern. "What's wrong?" Daniel whispered. The answer hit his mind like a wave of cold. "The cave is not empty. Something old lives there." Daniel swallowed hard. "Older than that thing I just trapped?" The tall Lumine's glow pulsed once. A clear yes. Another low sound rumbled from inside the cave. Dust drifted down from the entrance. The giant predator inside stopped roaring. Even it was silent now, as if it understood something worse was near. The tall Lumine gently pushed Daniel away from the cave. "We must leave. Now." Daniel didn't argue. The three of them moved quickly along the base of the hills, keeping distance from the cave. The fallen Lumine still lay on the grass near where the monster had nearly reached them. When the small Lumine reached it, it knelt beside the injured friend, glowing a soft green. Daniel could feel the healing energy, warm and gentle. But the tall Lumine touched Daniel's mind again. The feeling was sharp and urgent. Not enough time. A deep roar echoed from the cave. Not the monster he had trapped. Something bigger. Something angrier. The stone blocking the entrance shook violently. Daniel turned pale. "It's coming out." The tall Lumine lifted the injured alien into its arms again. Its glow brightened, forcing its body to stay strong. The small Lumine took one more look at the cave, its light trembling, and then urged Daniel to move. They ran again, this time climbing the slope of the hill toward a ledge that overlooked the field. Daniel slipped on the rocks but kept going. Behind them, the stone boulder cracked. A long, deep growl rolled out of the cave like the breath of something waking up after years of sleep. The tall Lumine pushed Daniel forward with firm, urgent thoughts. "Climb. Higher. Hurry." Daniel grabbed the rocks and pulled himself up the steep path. The aliens followed closely. The injured one's light flickered weakly but still glowed, dim but alive. A thunderous boom echoed below. Daniel turned to look. The cave exploded outward. A wave of dust burst into the air. Large chunks of rock flew across the field. The boulder he had rolled fell in two halves. The trapped giant creature screeched and stumbled out, limping, bleeding from new cracks in its stone-like skin. But the thing behind it was enormous. Daniel couldn't see it clearly through the dust at first. Only a massive shadow, large enough to fill the cave. Then the dust began to settle, revealing hints of its shape. A massive head, shaped like a wedge of stone. Lines of glowing white along its skull. Huge limbs built like pillars. Its body was covered in thick armored plates that dripped with dust and fragments of rock. It was like a mountain waking up. The first giant creature, the one Daniel had trapped, was nothing beside it. It looked small, weak, like a child standing before a titan. When the new monster stepped out, the ground trembled across the entire field. Daniel felt sick. His legs almost gave out. What? What is that? The Lumines did not have words. Instead, they sent him only pure emotion. Ancient. Apex. Death. The smaller Lumine grabbed Daniel's wrist and pulled him upward. Below, the trapped predator tried to run. The ancient titan turned its massive head toward it, and with one strike of its claw, crushed it flat. Daniel almost vomited at the sound. The titan slowly lifted its head. It sniffed the air, long armored plates shifting along its neck. Then it looked toward the hills, toward them. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. It can feel us, he whispered. The tall Lumine confirmed with a small pulse of fear. The titan took one slow step in their direction. The three Lumines reached the ledge at last. The tall one placed the injured alien gently on the ground. The small Lumine helped Daniel up the final step. They stood together on the rocky overlook, breathing hard. The titan roared. Every bone in Daniel's body vibrated. The tall Lumine pushed its feelings into Daniel again. This time, they were not fear. Not panic. But a strange kind of steady calm. We will protect you. Until the end. Daniel clenched his fists. No. I'm not letting any more of you get hurt. The tall Lumine's body glowed brighter, blue, white, and gold, an emotional mix Daniel couldn't fully understand. Gratitude. Sadness. Resolve. The titan began to climb the hill. Slow. Massive. Unstoppable. Daniel looked around desperately. There was nowhere left to run. No cave. No shield. Only rocks and cliffs. The small Lumine touched Daniel's hand softly, sending him a message filled with warmth. You are not alone. And then a new sound cut through the air. A distant humming. Mechanical. Growing louder. Daniel's eyes widened. That's a dropship. From behind the far ridge, bright lights appeared. Human rescue was coming. But the Titan was almost upon them. Daniel had seconds. And he had no idea how to save his new alien friends, or himself, before the giant creature reached the ledge. The humming sound grew louder, echoing across the rocky hills. Daniel turned toward the far ridge and saw bright lights shining through the dust. A dropship. A human one. The wide triangular shape moved fast, engines glowing white as it approached. Relief rushed through him, sharp, sudden, almost painful. But the relief died quickly when the Titan roared again. It was close now, climbing the hill with terrifying power. Each movement cracked rocks beneath its weight. Its armored plates scraped against stone, sending sparks into the air. The ground shook harder with every step. Daniel stood frozen, breath tight, legs weak. He could barely speak. It's almost here. The two standing Lumines stepped in front of him. Their bodies glowed bright, brighter than he had ever seen. Blue, white, and green lights blended into a single shining wave. They looked small compared to the Titan, but their courage filled the air like heat. The tall Lumine pressed a message into Daniel's mind, calm, warm, steady. Stay behind us. Daniel shook his head. No. I'm not letting you fight that thing alone. The small Lumine sent a soft feeling back. We do not fight to win. We fight to protect. Daniel's chest tightened. They weren't trying to defeat the Titan. They were trying to buy time for him. For him. The dropship flew lower, engines screaming now. Dust and grass lifted off the ground from the pressure. Daniel heard radio static from his belt, then a woman's voice. Hayes. We see you. Sit tight, we're coming in. Daniel shouted back into his communicator. There's a massive hostile, keep your distance. But even as he said it, the Titan roared and slammed one giant claw onto the hilltop. Stones exploded outward. The ledge cracked beneath their feet. The tall Lumine pushed Daniel away from the breaking edge, saving him again. The alien nearly lost its balance doing so. Daniel grabbed its arm and helped steady it. No more sacrifices, Daniel said. His voice shook, but his grip didn't. We survived together. All of us. The tall Lumine stared at him with glowing eyes of soft blue light. A sad warmth spread through Daniel's mind. You are brave. Too brave. The Titan stepped closer. Its shadow swallowed the ledge. Its massive head lowered toward them, bone plates opening and closing with a grinding sound. The two Lumines moved forward, side by side, their bodies shining like shields of living light. Daniel stood right behind them. The Titan roared and swung its great arm. But before the blow landed, the dropship swooped down over the ridge. A blinding searchlight hit the Titan. Then the ship opened fire. Blue plasma bolts shot across the air, slamming into the Titan's armored plates. The creature staggered, roaring in fury. Smoke rose from its shell where the blast struck. The tall Lumine looked back at Daniel. He felt a message from it, sharp, urgent. Now, run. Daniel grabbed the injured Lumine, lifting its weak body into his arms. The small Lumine helped steady him. Together, the three of them rushed toward the edge where the dropship hovered just low enough for rescue. The Titan slammed its claw into the hill again. The whole ledge cracked. Huge pieces of rock fell away. Daniel slipped, nearly losing his grip on the injured Lumine. The small Lumine caught his arm, glowing bright green with strength it didn't have a moment earlier. Thank you, Daniel breathed. The dropship lowered a rope ladder. A soldier inside shouted, "Move! Move! Move!" The tall Lumine guided Daniel forward, keeping itself between him and the Titan. The monster ripped a chunk of stone from the hill and threw it. The boulder spun through the air like a meteor. The dropship dodged, engines flaring. The blast wave hit Daniel's back, knocking him down. But he didn't let go of the injured Lumine. The small Lumine helped him to his feet again, glowing weak but determined. The Titan roared, furious now. It pushed forward through falling rocks, clawing its way toward them. It ignored the dropship fire and focused only on Daniel and the Lumines, on the connection it sensed. On their fear. On their light. The tall Lumine ran to Daniel's side and touched his forehead. A sudden wave of emotion hit him, shockingly clear and full of meaning. You must live. You must tell others. You must show them we are not their enemy. Daniel felt tears burn his eyes. I'm not leaving you. But the tall Lumine stepped back. Its light shifted into a brilliant white. Wait, what are you doing? Daniel gasped. The small Lumine sensed it first. It cried out in Daniel's mind, loud, desperate, terrified. No. Do not. But the tall Lumine ignored the plea. The Titan lifted both massive arms to strike. The tall Lumine glowed brighter and brighter until its body looked like a star. Daniel screamed, stop. The tall Lumine lifted its arms toward the Titan. The light exploded. A wave of pure white energy tore across the hilltop. It slammed into the Titan, throwing the massive creature backward like a rag doll. The explosion shook the ground, cracked open the stone, and filled the air with dust and wind. Daniel shielded the injured Lumine with his body as the shockwave washed over them. When the light faded, the Titan lay at the bottom of the hill, stunned but still alive. The tall Lumine stood at the edge of the cliff, its body dim, shaking, almost drained of all light. Daniel stared at it in horror. You're dying, he whispered. The tall Lumine turned its fading glow toward him. Not yet. It pointed at the dropship ladder. Go. The Titan below began to rise again, slow, angry, unstoppable. Daniel realized he had only seconds left to choose. Daniel's lungs burned as he stared at the tall Lumine standing at the cliff's edge. Its bright white glow had faded into a weak, trembling blue. It looked smaller now, like its body could break apart at any moment. The small Lumine beside him was trembling too, its light flickering with fear and grief. Down below, the Titan roared. Dust slid from its massive armored body as it pushed itself upright. Even injured, even stunned, it was still terrifying. Still hungry. Still coming. The dropship hovered overhead, engines screaming. Rope ladder swinging. Soldiers shouting from inside. Hayes! Get on! Now! Daniel looked from the ladder. To the tall Lumine. To the Titan dragging itself back up the hill. His chest tightened painfully. I won't leave you, he said to the tall Lumine. I won't. The tall Lumine stepped forward. Barely. Its legs shook. Its light flickered dangerously. It placed its hand gently on Daniel's cheek. A soft, warm feeling washed through his mind, sad, but proud. You already saved us. Now save yourself. Daniel shook his head, voice cracking. No, I haven't. I can still. Another roar cut him off. The Titan heaved its huge body up the slope. Stone crumbled under its weight. It was almost halfway up. Its massive claws dragged deep scars into the rock. Soldiers opened fire again, plasma blasts raining down, but the Titan kept moving. The tall Lumine pushed its emotions into Daniel's mind, so gentle yet so heavy. You cannot help me by dying with me. Daniel's hands trembled. He held the injured Lumine tighter to his chest. I can't just leave you. I just met you, I barely understand you. The tall Lumine sent one last message, so soft Daniel almost didn't feel it. Understanding is not needed to care. His throat closed up. He couldn't speak. The small Lumine suddenly grabbed his arm, its own glow trembling. It pushed a sharp, desperate emotion into him. Please. Live. For us. Daniel looked into the small Lumine's glowing green eyes and saw pure fear, not for itself, but for him. For what would happen if he stayed. For what the Titan would do. Another boom shook the ledge. The Titan was close now. Too close. The tall Lumine raised one arm again. Its light flickered weakly, fighting to rise, fighting to become bright enough to protect them. But Daniel could feel the truth through their bond. It had nothing left. If it used even a little more of its power, it would die instantly. The small Lumine felt it too. It cried out in Daniel's mind, raw, terrified, heartbreaking. Stop. You will vanish. Please. But the tall Lumine did not lower its arm. Daniel felt time slow around him. He saw the Titan dragging itself closer. He heard the dropship engines shaking the air. He felt the trembling, weak body of the injured Lumine in his arms. He saw the small Lumine reaching toward its elder with shaking hands. And he saw the tall Lumine standing alone against a monster that should never have existed. He made his choice. Daniel grabbed the small Lumine's hand and pulled. Come with me, now. The small Lumine gasped through the bond, shock, fear, confusion. Daniel didn't let go. He ran toward the dropship ladder with both Lumines, one in his arms, one at his side, determination burning through him like fire. The tall Lumine tried to follow but stumbled. Its body nearly collapsed. Daniel turned back. Come on. Move. But the tall Lumine shook its head slowly. I must stay. It will follow you. Daniel's heart stopped. He understood what it meant. If the Titan climbed the hill fully, it would go after the biggest source of energy, Daniel and the two remaining Lumines. They would all die. The dropship would be destroyed. Everyone on board would die too. But if the tall Lumine stayed behind, it could distract the Titan. Buy time. Sacrifice itself. No, Daniel shouted. No, you don't have to do that. The tall Lumine sent him one last message, clear, calm, unbroken. You touched our minds. We touched your soul. That is enough. Live, Daniel Hayes. Carry us with you. A soft, familiar emotion filled Daniel's mind. The feeling of someone crying for him. The same feeling he felt the first time they met. He choked on his breath. Tears blurred his vision. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. The tall Lumine smiled, not with a mouth, but with its light. A soft blue glow warmed for a final moment. Then it turned toward the Titan. It stood tall, even with fading strength. The Titan roared and charged. Daniel felt the small Lumine scream inside his mind, pain, grief, terror, but he pulled it with him onto the ladder anyway. The dropship rose as Daniel and the two surviving Lumines climbed aboard. Soldiers reached down, grabbing them and pulling them in. Daniel leaned out the open hatch, tears falling freely. Below, the tall Lumine raised both glowing arms toward the charging Titan. For one last time. A flash of white light filled the hilltop. Then. Silence. Dust. Stillness. The Titan stopped moving. The tall Lumine's light faded slowly. Gently. Like a candle going out. Daniel stared until the dropship carried them far from the hills. His chest ached with a grief he didn't know how to hold. The small Lumine collapsed against him, crying in flickers of dim green and blue. Daniel placed a hand on its crystal surface. I'll tell them, he whispered. I'll tell everyone what you are. What you gave. What you felt. The small Lumine lifted its head and pressed its hand to Daniel's chest, right over his heart. A soft, warm emotion flowed into him. And we will never forget you. Daniel looked out the window at the fading horizon of Lumia 4. Human and alien. Different worlds. But connected now, forever, by a single truth. They touched each other's souls. And cried.